What if the most secure prison ever built wasn't defeated by violence, but by patience? Imagine a fortress designed by engineers who believed they had eliminated every weakness. Walls too thick to drill, cells too isolated to coordinate, guards too numerous to outmaneuver. A prison where escape wasn't just unlikely, it was mathematically impossible. Yet one man studied that system long enough to find the flaw hidden inside its perfection. On a lonely stretch of ocean in San Francisco Bay sits a slab of rock once considered the end of the road. Alcatraz to the public. It was more than a prison. It was a symbol, the place where the worst criminals were sent when others failed. Surrounded by freezing water and vicious currents, the island looked like a natural cage. But the real barrier wasn't the ocean. It was the engineering. Inside the prison walls, everything had been calculated to remove opportunity. The cells were narrow concrete boxes stacked in rigid rows. Guards conducted counts constantly. Movement was choreographed with military precision. Prisoners ate together, worked together, slept under constant observation. Even the plumbing had been designed to prevent tampering. The architects believed they had eliminated uncertainty, and for nearly 3 decades, they were right. Men tried to escape. Some climbed fences, some attacked guards, others attempted to swim the 1.5 miles through water cold enough to trigger hypothermia. None made it. Official records listed them as drowned, captured, or dead. The prison earned a reputation that worked better than any wall, psychological defeat. But one man refused to believe it. Frank Morris had spent most of his life inside institutions. He was quiet, analytical. Beneath that calm exterior was something dangerous, patience. Morris wasn't interested in reckless attempts. He wanted understanding. Every system, he believed, was designed by humans, and anything designed by humans contained mistakes. He started with observation. In his cell, Morris studied the walls like blueprints. He noticed the concrete around the ventilation ducts wasn't as solid. Decades of salty ocean air had slowly eroded it, not dramatically, just enough to weaken it. For Morris, it was a possibility. Morris needed tools. Real tools were impossible, but fragments of metal could be scavenged. A discarded spoon from the dining hall. Over time, he assembled a crude drill. The motor came from a vacuum cleaner. The blades were scrap metal. It was barely functional. 2 brothers, John and Clarence Anglin, occupied nearby cells. Like Morris, they were disciplined and patient. Night after night, while guards patrolled the corridors, the men worked. The sound of drilling should have been obvious, but Alcatraz had an unexpected weakness: noise. Within that chaos, the quiet buzz of Morris's homemade drill disappeared into the background. Behind each cell wall was a narrow utility corridor, a maintenance space no prisoner was supposed to reach. Morris and the Anglins widened the openings carefully, hiding their progress with cardboard painted to match the cell walls, using stolen plaster, soap, and toilet paper. The men sculpted lifelike heads. They painted hair with prison barbershop clippings. The result was eerie: hollow faces resting on pillows, convincing enough in dim light to fool a passing guard. They needed a boat, using more than 50 stolen raincoats. The men stitched together an inflatable raft, a handmade bellows, essentially an accordion style. Pump would inflate the raft once they reached the water. Then, one evening in June 1962, the plan moved from theory to action. One by one, the men squeezed through the ventilation holes they had carved over months of secret labor. Behind the walls, they climbed into the narrow utility corridor. Above them was darkness and rusting metal ladders. They reached the roof. Wind from the bay howled across the island, masking their movement. From there they descended a pipe to the ground and slipped toward the shoreline. In the shadows, they inflated the raft. Then they disappeared into the water. Morning arrived like any other. One by one, guards walked past the cells, glancing briefly at the figures lying under blankets. Then a guard tapped Morris's head with a baton. The plaster face rolled onto the floor. Within minutes, Alcatraz exploded into motion. Sirens screamed, guards flooded the corridors. The prison went into lockdown. The official conclusion came quickly. The men must have drowned. The water was too cold, the currents too strong, yet small details refused to disappear. A waterproof bag containing personal belongings washed ashore months later, decades later. Letters surfaced claiming the brothers had survived and lived quietly in South America. Frank Morris was never found. No photograph ever confirmed his survival. No body ever confirmed his death. The most secure prison in America closed just a year later. Its reputation permanently altered by an unanswered question. It was about a system built to eliminate uncertainty, defeated by a man who understood that the smallest imperfection could bring it down. And somewhere beyond the cold currents, the possibility still lingers that the one escape Alcatraz was never supposed to allow actually worked.